Hello, and welcome to our initial episode of Hobby Focus with Chris Nerat. That's Chris Nerat. I'm Mike Provenzale, the production manager. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good other than yeah, I'm lying. I'm doing horrible. My Bucks blew the last two games of the
You know, I,
first round
I
and
wasn't
I'm
I wasn't going to bring it up, but that was a tough way to close it out last night, I got to say.
the last two games they had a huge lead going into the fourth quarter and they just blew it. My buddy Giannis missed his free throws. Everyone was afraid to shoot the shot at the end of the game to maybe take the lead. It was hard. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you don't want Grayson taking the final shot anyway, right?
he didn't get it off, so we'll never even know. It was, I always say though, that's what makes sports great is it hurts so bad sometimes, but when your team actually wins, say a championship, then it's so amazing.
Yeah, and great answer last night from Giannis in the post game interview. I was a fan of that, I'll say.
It was classy as usual.
Yeah. So NBA playoffs aside, so we're going to do this show every week, Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Time. We'll send out reminders so everyone can join. We're going to pick a different topic every week. And this week, we're going to talk about game worn materials, something Chris knows quite a bit about. Chris, when did you start collecting game worn material?
Yeah, it's going on 30 years ago now. I started collecting baseball cards like everybody and I started in the mid '80s, and I loved them. I don't know if I loved them a lot just because that's all I had access to. Didn't know about sports memorabilia back in the mid '80s, but
Not
you
many
know,
did.
no, it was a different hobby back then with game worn items for sure, and just memorabilia in general. But my parents started buying me sports cards, and I really took a liking to them. And maybe 10 years after I started collecting sports cards, I started buying the Sports Collectors Digest magazine. I would have been probably a junior or a senior in high school, and I started seeing these something new to me auctions. They were, mail order auctions, or there was no internet then, or it was just starting, and I started seeing like North Shore Sports auctions, Mr. Sports auctions, a bunch of different
You're
companies.
really name dropping here from some originators in the
Well,
industry.
they don't exist anymore for the most part, so some of the older listeners will probably remember what I'm and remember what I'm talking about, but a lot of the newer guys, they're not going to know what I'm talking about. They might not even know, what SCD is. It's not what it used to be. It's a lot smaller circulation, but back in the day, their circulation was in the six figures, and instead of eBay, instead of online auctions, SCD was it. And at any rate, there was I had to drive an hour. My parents would drive me an hour to Green Bay, Wisconsin, from my little old town of Marinette, Wisconsin, who didn't have SCDs anywhere. But there was a tobacco store and a magazine store in Green Bay called Boss's Bookstore. And my parents would drive me to pick up that SCD, and it was magical. It was so cool. I would see things that didn't know that you had access to purchase. I didn't have any money back then, so I couldn't purchase much of it. But to see game worn material, something that I would see on the playing field from my favorite players, I couldn't wrap my head around it. It was really hard to wrap my head around it. I just didn't think it existed. It was out of my price range, but it was still super cool to see that you could, in theory, purchase this stuff. So that's when I fell in love with it. I remember vividly a North Shore sports auction in an SCD, and they had Boston Celtics game worn sneakers. And I was a huge Bucks fan. I always have been, but they weren't very good. when I was started watching them in the mid to late '80s. And my guy was Larry Bird for the Celtics. Long story of how I fell in love with that guy, but for another show. But at any rate, I would see Robert Parrish sneakers. I would see Kevin McHale, Dennis Johnson, Larry Bird in these North Shore sports auctions. And the minimum bids, they always started them really low back then. So it would say like $1 minimum bid. And I, as a youngster, thought, wow, I could win that for $1, you know? And I probably had $100 to my name back then. But I actually bid on some of these North Shore sports auctions and got outbid on every one of them. Never won one. But that's how it started. And finally, in probably 95 or 96, I was able to scrounge up about $300 or $400 somehow. And I bought my first game worn jersey, and it was a Shannon Sharp. It would have been 95. It was a 1995 Shannon Sharp game worn jersey, the orange crush style with the sewn on identifiers, the sewn on numbers and name on the back. And in hindsight, and I don't remember, I'm not going to say who I bought it from. They're probably not in business anymore, but it had no wear on it. It was clearly just like a game issued jersey, but that's how it was back then. There was no photo matching back then. And if it said impeccable source, that's where this jersey came from. The collectors believed it, or at least I did, and a lot of other ones did. I wasn't an advanced game worn jersey collector, but that's how you learn.
Yeah, it was the Wild West back then, and
It was really the Wild West.
as there is still now, people who are trying to take advantage of people out there, take advantage of collectors with material that isn't good, or maybe they don't even know. They're assuming that it's good and just passing it on to someone else, which we see a lot.
All the time.
So what are some things you look for as far as gamers when it comes to authenticity? What's that first layer when you first get it in your hands? What are you looking at?
For football jerseys and even basketball, and I'm not a baseball guy, but for a lot of the jerseys, the minute you see, like there's times at Heritage that will open up a box that has a jersey in it that's supposed to be game worn, and the box may be on the ground or on a shelf or something. I might be standing, far away from it. Someone else might be opening it up. And the minute it's opened and I can see the jersey, a lot of times you can tell right away, especially on like a supposed well-worn football jersey or something. There's just something about the numbers that fade a certain way, the softness of the tackle twill, the abrasions to the surface. I mean, there's a lot of forgeries that have abrasions to the numbers and the lettering and the jersey body itself. But they're just something that over the years I've developed an ability to see it from a distance. And that's on the really, really good ones. There's always borderline jerseys that have, a little bit of wear, even though they're legitimate. You don't know right away. But a really good, rock solid game worn jersey, a lot of times you can just tell. But some people don't have the experience that I've been blessed to have over the years. And there's different things you have to look for to start the process of authenticating a game worn jersey. The first step you have to look at, obviously, is the specs of the jersey. Does it have the proper tagging? There's databases online that you can go to that kind of help you date a jersey by the style of the manufacturer's tagging. I know Mears, they have some databases on their website, and a lot of these online communities, they'll really help you out with the tagging and the dating that way. But the tagging is definitely probably square one. That's what you want to start with. And then nowadays with Getty Images and some of the other photograph databases, bring up some game photos. Look to make sure that the patches on the jerseys or the identifiers are in the proper position. And I'm not saying proper position. it has numbers on the front, numbers on the back. I'm talking, where are the numbers on the front? Where are the numbers on the back? If it's a basketball jersey and there's a name on the back of it, make sure the name isn't sitting up too high compared to what a game action shot of that possible game worn jersey would be. I mean, you have to be so detailed in your research nowadays. That and this is before photo matching would even come into play. You don't want to send in a jersey for photo matching if none of the specs match up to the game shots. So that's another way to maybe start the process. Another thing, and if you want to go a little more advanced, is to look at the wear.
Definitely do.
Make sure that the wear isn't contrived wear. Make sure that someone didn't take like a Brillo pad to the numbers and to try to rough up the number on the front of the jersey. And you know, common sense plays into that a little bit, or a lot bit probably. You can tell if something just doesn't look right about the wear on a jersey. To get more advanced, if you want to bring up the image of the Wilson tag that I shared with you, and that's a little bit blurry image from the front side of that Wilson tag. But if you saw it in person, you would see that there's extra holes where they did the stitching. And if you see extra holes on a tag on a supposed game worn jersey, that is a telltale sign that the jersey may or probably is a forgery. But on this particular jersey, which was really interesting, if you flipped it to inside out and looked at the tagging from inside out and the stitching pattern, you'll actually see that this person, this forger, stitched a tag that shouldn't be on the jersey over the original stitching. So you can see two sets of, you'll see the stitching, and then you'll see another set of holes that isn't on that shouldn't be there, because that's from the original tagging. And then one might ask, why would you ever want to put a fake tag on a jersey? Well, if they're taking a common player's jersey who is supposedly or who is size 40, say 40 or 38, and you want to make it into a star player's jersey who's a size 46, that's the reason why right there.
As you said, for most people, the first thing they look at is that tag there for the size, the correct manufacturer, whatever the era is that matches up. So if somebody's trying to fake something, that's where they're going to start too. That's going to have to be number one.
And a lot of amateur collectors are, you know, I wasn't always an advanced collector, but I think there's a in between. I wasn't an amateur and I wasn't an advanced collector or game or jersey collector, but I think that even a middle of the road collector may not realize something like this. So I think it's a good little tidbit to help maybe in the first step of authenticating a game worn jersey. And there's so many other red flags that go into authenticating a game worn jersey. You know, back in the 70s, all the way through the 90s, some unscrupulous forgers or dealers would order game issued or something that looked like a game issued jersey from the manufacturers of the jerseys. They were able to buy in bulk from Goodman and Sons, McCullough, Stanit, Wilson, and the manufacturers didn't know what these people were doing with the jerseys probably, but those forgers, they were getting these jerseys that were basically game issued or look game issued, and they were putting some fake wear on them or maybe switching tags up, whatnot. I don't know exactly all the things they were doing, but they were selling them as star player game worn jerseys. And these still pop up in the industry all the time. If you pull up the jersey, it's an Oakland Athletics jersey from 1975 with the McCullough tagging on it. you'll see the tagging with the group of the year tag, the 42 swatch, the manufacturer's tagging the wash instructions. Now that looks pretty darn authentic to someone who's an amateur or maybe a in-between jersey collector. But on this sort of jersey, a lot of times they would space out those tagging, that tagging on an actual game worn jersey. So this thing looks darn close to a lot of people, and it wasn't real. So it can be confusing, and that's where you really have to do more research. You have to go on these online communities, ask around, keep exemplars yourselves. You know, at Heritage, we have the best images on our auctions in the industry, and you can see what the tagging should look like. If you pull up a 1975 Oakland Athletics jersey and the tagging isn't spaced like this, then it's cause for concern. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a game worn jersey, but it's another red flag that you really want to take a look at. And then you want to take a look at other parts of the jersey, see if the wear looks contrived, see if the stitching looks wrong. But you know, we're talking about jerseys that can be worth thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, that it's worth spending tens, dozens, and hundreds of hours on a certain jersey of research, because when you're talking that kind of money, you know, you have to invest your time.
And talking about sourcing earlier, you know, at Heritage, we see thousands of game worn jerseys every year. And a lot of times they come in, they say, oh, I got it from a ball boy or a trainer or something like that. But you can't just accept that as it's absolutely authentic. A lot of times those people don't know where they're getting them from. It could be secondhand even for them. You know, not that they're doing anything malicious, just that they think it's good enough, so they're passing it on to the next level. And, you know, we've seen plenty of things where it's sold several times and there's just no question that it's unauthentic. So when we get a jersey in here at Heritage and it comes to you, you're one of our game worn experts, what's the first thing you do? Just take us through the process of how you would vet a game worn jersey.
Sure. I kind of do I like to call it like the 5 foot away from the box process. Like I said, my first step is to kind of stand back, just give it a real quick look. And if it just stands out to me as you know, has the soft numbers, it just looks real, I can tell a lot of times. That's the first step. But every one of
do you ever smell them like Tony Giese? I know that's the first step he takes for any gamer.
Yeah, I can't say I've never smelt a jersey, but it's not, you know, if it's I don't think that that's a key component to authenticating a game worn jersey, because
Fair enough.
And I've also heard some people say, you know, well, look at that jersey. It's got wash wear on it. It was definitely laundered. Well, that's great. And a lot of game worn jerseys should have been laundered, obviously. But anybody can take a jersey and launder it. It could be a brand new jersey that you buy today. You throw it in the wash machine 5 times and now it's laundered. That's not a real rock solid way or attribute of authentication. So what do? We have game worn jersey consultants who come in the office, and they are the most knowledgeable people in the industry by far. They're collectors themselves. They have huge collections, and they have just huge amounts of exemplars that they use. Another thing that I didn't mention is you have to look at the size of the jersey too. If you have, you know, an Oscar Robertson jersey from the latter part of his career and it's a size 38, which is a small jersey, it's probably not worn by Oscar Robertson, because he was just bigger in the later part of his career. So our consultants, they have databases and exemplars of what the size should be for a particular era, for a particular player. And that's very important. So, you know, we turn it over to the consultants who kind of, you know, I've seen our jersey consultants spend a day on one jersey. And what they always tell me is the ones that aren't real take the longest a lot of times, because like I said, sometimes or a lot of times the real game worn jerseys you can tell right away for the most part. So once, and this isn't always the process, the exact process, but we'll say once the jersey consultant thinks the jersey is real or is pretty darn positive that it's real, then we can go back to the consigner and see if it's something that they want photo matched as well, because that's, an extra line of defense for authentication, and it gets them more money in the long run if a jersey can be photo matched. Now, I have plenty of jerseys in my collection that you just simply can't photo match. I collect vintage Green Bay Packer game worn jerseys, and the white jerseys, the road jerseys from the 60s, for whatever reason, you just can't photo match them. Almost never. I do not own a Packer road jersey from the 60s that's photo matched. And that's because the team repairs in them, they just blend in with that fabric of the body, that durine. And a lot of times the lighting wasn't great back then, and you just can't pick out the distinct qualities or defects of the jersey or the hit marks or the repairs on a white jersey. It's hard to do it for any color jersey, but for white jerseys especially, it's very tough. And speaking of repairs, one thing I forgot to mention about red flags. If you own a jersey and it has a repair in it, people get excited about, oh, it has team repairs, and that's great. But you have to make sure they're legitimate team repairs. We've had jerseys, and I remember some from my past employment at other auction houses, and we would actually kind of, if they had loose threads in the repair, or if you could kind of just see where the repair was and there's some separation with the thread and the fabric, you could see that there's a repair in there, but there was never a hole in the jersey to repair. So people would just sew a bunch of yarn in a spot to make it look like it's a team repair, but they did it for no reason. So that's a forgery. You know what I mean? There should be some abrasions where there is a legitimate team repair. There should be a hole or a tear in a jersey that's being repaired. Otherwise, thered be no point. So, I mean, these forgers, they're not always as smart as they may think they are. But if you're sewing a repair, and I don't want to give people ideas, but that's just one other red flag that you have to look for. If it has a repair, that doesn't mean it's game worn. Also, back in the 70s and 80s, some of these guys, I almost call it like a forgery ring back then. They had this idea that if I include a fake jersey with a pair of pants that were game issued, that it adds legitimacy to the jersey, and collectors will say, "Oh, it's a complete uniform. It's probably game worn." Well, they were thinking that. So just because a pair of or a jersey that was or supposedly worn in the NBA by a player comes with trunks from that same team or that same player, the trunks may not be real. The trunks may be real and it might be a fake jersey, or the trunks may not be real at all and it still might be a fake jersey. But my point is we're kind of taught to believe if it's a complete uniform, that sounds pretty special, but not always. So, you got to be on the lookout for that. Be on the defense for sure.
Yeah. You always want to look at things with an inquisitive point of view. Every collector, when they're offered something or they find something, your heart starts beating, you get very excited, you're hoping it is what it is. And it's one of those situations where you could start to believe something that isn't true just because that's what you
all
desire.
The time. People want to believe what they want to believe, and that is definitely the wrong approach when buying a game worn jersey.
And it's the same at an auction house. When we get something consigned that's going to be a great item, we get very excited. We hope it is what it is. But here, if we're 99.9% sure it's good, that's just not good enough. We have to be 100%. So we have all these levels for authentication. As far as characteristics for gamers, what are some things you've seen that are good talking points that you like to see on jerseys, or might be unknown to some people what actually causes them?
Sure. I always like to say, a real game worn jersey, especially a football jersey where there's a lot of contact involved. The wearer will tell the story a lot of times. If you want to bring up that Jaguars jersey, there's a face mask mark, and face mask marks are real interesting. They leave off kind of a plastic finish to the jersey or a plastic abrasion, and they just have a real distinct quality to them. But what team do you think that the Jaguars were playing in this game with that teal or aqua
Got to be the
face mask
Dolphins.
mark? Got to be the Dolphins, right? There's some teams that have a similar color face mask, but say this looked kind of like the Lions blue and kind of looked like um, the Seahawks blue, we'll say, uh, you can narrow it down to a couple teams. So I always think that's kind of cool. I've had jerseys in my Packer collection that it'll have three different color face mask marks on there, and a lot of times that means the jersey was worn against multiple teams, so you have a multiple game worn jersey, and that's always kind of an extra special thing in the game worn jersey hobby. You can also bring up images of, I don't know, what else did we have there?
Oh,
Oh,
we got
the Zeke jersey, the Ezekiel Elliott jersey. On the front of the jersey, it has what a lot of people think may look like blood on the front of the jerseys. And you'll see this sort of staining on a lot of running back jerseys because the running backs are holding the ball tight close to them. And it's actually the dye from the leather of the football. And I think that's something that I learned not that long ago. I didn't know what that was. And you'll a lot of times see a little circle in that dye or in that staining, and that's from the shoulder pads underneath the jersey. So that's kind of an extra pattern. You can bring up some of the other shots that we took of face mask marks, and it kind of speaks for itself. That Seahawks jersey is kind of interesting because it's kind of a bluish aqua face mask mark on that, and I think that is a helmet mark from his own team, little friendly fire that you see on that Seahawks jersey. So,
There's some more
it's all.
guy from the football on this one as well.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And once you start, learning things like that, a lot of other characteristics of wear becomes a little more common sense. Um, if you want to bring up another, just kind of an interesting characteristic of a basketball jersey, that Giannis jersey, if you turn a lot of NBA jerseys inside out, especially the modern ones, you'll see this black. It's like a pocket inside the jersey, and that's actually a microphone pocket. A lot of times you'll be watching an ESPN or a TNT or ABC NBA game, especially in the playoffs, and they'll say, and so is mic'd up. Well, that's where they put the microphone, and it's kind of a neat customization for a modern NBA jersey to see a mic pack in there. I've seen in some of the newer NFL jerseys and the interior of maybe the collar, I'll see a little pocket. And I don't know, I've heard that sometimes they keep one of their relatives' ashes who recently passed away for just to keep them close to their heart. And I think that's interesting, or a little, maybe they'll keep a little pendant inside of there that they can seal that and just keep it close to them. These players are superstitious and they are, very sentimental with things. And I think that's really interesting that jerseys have really taken on a life of their own. Whenever I find a game worn football jersey with built-in hand warmers in the front, I think that a lot of collectors really, really think that's special. Any little extra characteristic that's added to a game worn jersey by the team is extra special, and it usually means extra dollars as far as value goes.
Here's a good one. Here's this Raiders jersey as well that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, there you go. More ball marks, right?
Exactly.
And
Nice
you
wear
can
on
see
that
the
one.
circles in there from the face mat or the shoulder pads from the interior.
And then we also had this Leonard Fournette Bucks jersey from a game I actually attended this year. I'm sad to say the Bucks ended up winning that one.
Well, I bet you know what that face mask mark means then.
Yeah, it's Cowboys face mask right there. So it looks like we did get a hit on Fournette that game. I would surprised.
One of the few.
But yeah, that one had a good story, which is another thing about gamers. So Fournette's from the 7th Ward in New Orleans, and there were some fans at the game that were also from the 7th Ward. It was Bucks Cowboys, but they were wearing Saints gear, and they were close to the field. And after the game, he saw them and came up to them, found out they were from the same neighborhood, so he gave them the jersey, signed it. You can see it says 7th Ward here. And they had photos and videos of him signing the jersey and giving it to him. So that's great provenance right there. You know, we could match the
about as good of provenance as you can get. A video of the player handing the consigner the jersey.
Yeah, so that was good stuff. When those come in and you watch the video, and especially with the autograph, which is kind of messy, so you could match it exactly. You know, look, he was doing it on his knee, you know, right on the side. It wasn't done at a table or anything like that. Makes it a lot easier to confirm that it is what it's purported to be.
Sure.
So we also talked about, you know, you've seen a lot of gamers, a lot of great material come through Heritage. What are some of your favorite game-worn items that we've sold?
Yeah, I pulled off 10, and I could go with a lot more than 10, but these are just so cool. And if I would add the foresight to purchase any of these, you know, these were sold a long time ago. They've went up in value quite a bit, but you know, probably my favorite, or right up there, would have to be that 1982-83 Michael Jordan Tar Heels jersey. Just a beautiful, colorful jersey. Michael Jordan, you know, it speaks for itself.
You're starting at number one? You're starting at number one. You don't know how countdown goes?
Well, these were kind of they were in random order.
Not in any order. Fair enough.
Although they ended up being in order of value. That's kind of how I searched highest first on the website. But at any rate, we'll go with the highest value first. And yeah, that Jordan jersey was special. When I first started at Heritage, or close to when I first started, I remember we had to pick up this next jersey, I believe in Canada.
There's that Jordan one.
Yeah,
you know, one thing about, I mean, huge price there, of course, for Jordan, but, you know, people tend to really like the pro jerseys. What do you think about, you know, guys that went on to the pros, became huge stars, their college material or their high school material? We had some Tony Dorsett, a high school jersey back in the day. What do you think collectors lean towards when it comes to that?
Yeah, I mean, not a big market for high school. A lot of times they're not as cool of a style because the teams didn't have the money to be putting in the tackle twill identifiers on them and whatnot. But if it's got really good provenance, sometimes that high school stuff can be really cool, especially if you're a collector of a particular player and you have a chance to own their high school jersey. You know, it'd be pretty cool. College. I mean, we can flip down to the lower part of my list here. That Barry Sanders jersey that we sold from Oklahoma State. To me, that just screams 1989 Pro Set Barry Sanders card. At the time, I thought it was a crazy price for it, $38,000, and now that's probably a fraction of what it would sell for now. Very cool jersey. That orange just stands out, and I just remember, you know, God, I'm dating myself now, but I was 11 years old back then. And in 1989, when I saw that Pro Set card, and that was one of the first football cards that I really got excited about. You know, some of you really don't see a lot are college basketball jerseys. And we sold in 2006, we sold the Shaquille O'Neal LSU Tigers jersey. And I think that's cool. It's got a vintage signature from Shaq on it. It was
some vintage Heritage imaging as well with the mannequin show.
Yeah, that's an old school mannequin. Sourced directly from the LSU team manager. I mean, that's got to be worth a lot more than $7,000 now. So that's really cool. And if you want to, it's not college, but it's pre-rookie. That 1986 Memphis Chicks Bo Jackson
Oh
jersey
yeah.
that's right up there with one of my is as one of my favorite jerseys too. I remember seeing the Memphis Chicks minor league cards of Bo Jackson. He was my favorite player growing up. And I always tell people, Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan now, and he's been for a long time. But Bo Jackson was hotter than Michael Jordan in the late '80s. He was hotter than Michael Jordan in the early '90s. He was all different sports. He was doing Nike commercials where he's swinging a tennis racket and a golf club, and Bo knows that was the start of all the crazy sponsorships. And that Memphis Chicks jersey was photo matched. I went for 13.8, and there again, I think that was a bargain. I mean, in hindsight,
2019, so pre-pandemic.
pre-pandemic,
Things
yeah.
have changed a lot.
A
Look at that
couple
detail
years later,
photo matching there.
and I believe that was found at like a vintage clothing store. I took it in, and I don't remember the exact details, but I think it was a story kind of like the Goodwill. Found it at the Goodwill for $1 type thing, I think, but I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that.
You're quoted. Sorry.
I know it's in the internet forever.
This
now.
lives forever.
Some of the pro jerseys that I really, really liked. Probably my favorite was that '54 Hank Aaron rookie jersey. A really unique characteristic of that jersey. When Hank Aaron was a rookie, he was number 5, and you can still see the stitching marks from the number 5 under the 44, which is super cool. And there again, 2011, that sold. What would this be worth in the market today? That's a Smithsonian caliber jersey right there.
Zip up as well there.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm a Wisconsin guy. That's my dad always talked about Hank Aaron, how great he was. Another Smithsonian quality jersey that was sold during the early part of my career at Heritage is this Bobby Orr rookie jersey. I'm not a hockey guy at all.
I was about to say, are you a hockey guy?
I'm not, but I can appreciate something like that. I know that he was the Mickey Mantle of hockey back in the '60s, and a Bobby Orr rookie jersey, that is something. And when that sold at 191,000, I guarantee that was a world record for a hockey jersey. I shouldn't say I guarantee it, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that was a while back. So that's such a cool jersey. But if you're talking about styles of jerseys, and also Boston Bruins, that Eddie Shore jersey that we sold in 2015, what a great style jersey that was. And from a Hall of Famer. So on top of that, I don't know if you can show the crowd that one.
Can indeed.
But that's a beauty. And there again, I'm not a hockey guy, but I can really appreciate something like that because, something that game worn jersey collectors all appreciate are the unique styles that some of these jerseys were and some of these teams had back in the day.
That logo is amazing.
Oh my God, is that cool? And then the striping, the wide striping on the sleeves, and it's in pretty good condition. Some of that wool material, moss got at it and things like that, but this one came out in pretty good condition. Another style jersey that I love, maybe not the most politically correct, but it's definitely a historic jersey in football history, is that Boston Redskins jersey of George Hurley.
Did you bring that one in?
I did, and that was another one that was found in like a vintage clothing store, I believe. There was definitely a story behind that, but that's the very first Redskins jersey, the very first style. So a lot of cool jerseys from my tenure at Heritage, and they keep coming in. And I know in our upcoming Platinum Night auction and in our auction that's up currently, there's a lot of good ones now that are online, and a lot of really cool game worn material coming up in our Platinum Night auction. Love the big number on the back of that one. Let's do it.
Yeah. So what are some of the ones that caught your eye? The auction we have open right now, it's almost 3,000 lots. There's plenty of material, so there's always a little bit of something for everybody. what caught your eye from this auction?
I mean, I was trying to focus on game or material for this show, so I picked out 5 of my favorites. One that's just so unique. I've never seen a jersey in my lifetime that was over a size 58 or a size 56. And this Shaquille O'Neal jersey from 2006, the Heat's championship season, it's a size 62, which is just bizarre to see on a tag on a game worn jersey. It's I believe it's sitting around at around $11,000 right now. It's going to go up a lot higher than that. They estimate it's $40,000 plus. And any NBA top 50 or top 75 guys or any Hall of Famers that are photo matched like this one, especially a larger than life figure like Shaquille O'Neal, they command crazy bidding, especially toward the last couple of days at auction. Yeah, a size 62, it's crazy. I kind of,
Size 62 plus more length as well.
Yeah, like we needed more length than a size 62. Why don't we just call it a size 80?
Championship season pedigree there as well.
Yeah, I mean it's signed by him, which is cool. But you have some of these guys that are just trying to get these NBA top 50, top 75 guys in photo match jerseys, and there's going to be a battle, I can tell you right now, on that jersey. And even if you're not a game worn jersey collector, I always say if you have a pair of size 22 Shaquille O'Neal shoes in your office or a jersey on a mannequin or a frame in your office, people are always going to comment on it because it just looks surreal to see that up close in person.
The shoes are unbelievable.
They're crazy. I can fit my size 11s inside of those Shaquille O'Neal shoes. So that's saying something.
I know you're a big Packer guy. So what's a Packer gamer in this auction that you're interested in?
Yeah, I mean, the Ray Nitschke jersey speaks for itself. It's a late career Nitschke. So it's the mesh quality or the mesh variation. But this came from a man named Steve Joblius, lives in Green Bay.
That sounds like a Green Bay name.
Does it?
Yeah, it does.
He must be a cool guy. Actually, he is. I met him in person. I picked it up at his place of business, and he worked for the Packers for 50 years. So early in his tenure working for the team, the equipment manager at the time presented him with this jersey as a keepsake. And this is the only jersey that he kept. And one thing, you're showing it right now, Sandknit didn't make the little size tags, I believe, for jerseys this large, or they just didn't have a lot of size 52 size tags. So that little tag in the collar, they actually they kind of took a 2 from a different size and they added it to the 5 to make it a 52. And those are little things that are the opposite of red flags to look for. Those are good things to see on the jersey. This one has an original nameplate still on the back of the jersey, which is very rare. The Packers stripped the jerseys for practice use after they retired them from game use. And this one still has the nameplate. It has the really cool Packers spaced out lettering on the back of it. And it's the sewn on letters. It's a screened on numbers on the front and the back, but the sewn on letters. So super cool. And then there's some other really cool basketball jerseys that I picked out. There again, an NBA top 50 player, Hakeem Olajuwon's jersey from the 1987-88 season. There again, photo matched as well. This one has a very conservative estimate of 8,000 plus. I think any NBA top 50 player jersey that's photo matched should be 20,000 plus. I'm not predicting anything. I'm not saying invest your money in any of it.
It sounds like a prediction.
That's just my opinion, because how rare is that? And this is darn near a rookie jersey for Hakeem. Super cool piece. In my opinion, it's going to go a lot higher than what it's at right now. It's only at a few $1,000s, I believe. And I'm not a Rockets collector or an NBA top 50 collector, but if I were one of those, I would definitely be eyeing up this Hakeem Olajuwon when he was Hakeem Olajuwon when he was wearing it.
Yeah, look at all those points for the photo match too.
Yeah, I
All
mean, it's
that
rock solid.
conclusive.
Exactly. So another basketball jersey that's really neat and probably one of the most colorful jerseys at our auction is this Harlem Globetrotters jersey worn by the Clown Prince himself, Meadowlark Lemon, arguably the most famous Globetrotter of them all. I believe it sits at $2,500 or around there right now. It's estimated at 8,000 plus. This is a late career Meadowlark Lemon, but still super cool and still shows off that classic
Mm.
Globetrotter flair to it. The red, white, and blue, red and
These
gold.
are great conversation pieces if you have them on
Oh
display.
yeah.
Everybody loves the Globetrotters.
Well, I remember, the first time I was ever exposed to the Globetrotters was seeing them on Scooby Doo. Seeing Curly Neal, this bald guy running around, and they all their warm up uniforms on in Scooby Doo, and that was probably in the mid '80s. But that stuck with me. And then shortly after that, my dad brought me to see the Globetrotters in person, and I liked the Globetrotters. I loved the Celtics back then. I loved the Bucks, but the Globetrotters was my favorite team as a kid, and I don't think I'm alone in saying that because they were so entertaining. And Meadowlark Lemon was probably the most entertaining.
We've also got a Curly Neal jersey.
We do. Another, arguably the most or one of the most popular Globetrotter players.
Having two Globetrotter gamers in one auction is pretty special, I gotta
Yeah,
say.
I mean, you'll go through a lot of auctions and you won't have any. So to have two from, like I said, arguably the two most famous or the two most notable Globetrotters of them all is definitely pretty. It's a cool thing.
All right, what else you got on your list? Let the people
Oh, the
know.
la- yeah,
2 weeks to bid. So
2 weeks to bid. The last one that I picked out was the Gronk jersey. That was, the popular tradition now for players is swapping jerseys after the game, and this is one that Gronk swapped to Julio Jones, and it's a 2017 Rob Gronkowski game worn, unwashed Patriots jersey, and any Patriots jersey from Gronk is extra special. I think it's more special than a Buccaneers Gronk, although those are tough too, because he was there for such a short period of time. But this one's already in the five-figure range. It's probably going to go a lot higher. I think it's cool when you have one superstar player to the other swapping with each other, and then they write their cool inscriptions, personalizations on them. And this one it has a really good inscription to Julio Jones.
yeah, Julio, keep up the freak stats, you a baller. Rob
Yeah,
Gronkowski got the number inscription there as
a
well.
lot of these players that swap jerseys, they don't let them out of their collection. So how many opportunities are you going to have from probably one Hall of Famer to another?
Yeah, and you got the photo match info right there. The mark on the shoulder. Match it. Nice. Well, Chris, great info as always. Of the people in our department, Chris is one of the most knowledgeable about game worn material, but he's got a wealth of knowledge that we're going to explore every Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Time. So thanks for joining us, Chris. How can people get in touch with you if they have questions, consignments, or want a free appraisal?
Sure. The easiest is just to email me at chrisn@ha.com, chrisn@ha.com. And the last thing I did want to mention, just because these guys even help me out sometimes, there's some
Yes.
Facebook groups that specialize or focus on game-worn jerseys. The ones I always look at are the NFL or the football game-worn jersey ones, but there's also so Ryan Gilbert, a good friend of mine, he started one quite a while ago, and it's very popular. And Mike will put the screen grab of what they look like on Facebook right now. And then there's one that was recently created just for photo match game worn jerseys, and I know there's another couple. I mean, they're for every sport, so I didn't want to just highlight these necessarily, but these are the ones that I visit. If you have any questions, that I can't answer, or if you just want to get a more interactive approach online, go to these on Facebook. They're a lot of great guys, a lot of knowledge. I'm a Packer guy, and that's my expertise, and an NFL guy, but I don't know the answers for everything. And it's always good to get second opinions, third opinions, because it's not an exact science. Definitely take advantage of these resources. There's good guys out there, and the majority are willing to help, and it's kind of neat. So yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, chrisn@ha.com. We're going to try to do this every Thursday at 2:00, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Do or do not. Do or do not. There is no try, Chris. We're going to be here every Thursday. I'm Mike Provenzale. If you want to get a hold of me, you can message any of the Heritage social media platforms. Happy to answer questions there, free appraisals, whatever you've got, or get you in touch with anyone at our 55 different departments here at Heritage. A few notes. If anybody has anything you want to hear Chris talk about or on the show, please let us know. We'd love to get some input from you. And Heritage in general is going to have a huge announcement on Monday morning for something from our entertainment department that we're all very excited about. So look out for that. And everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs this weekend. And we'll see you next Thursday.